All right, Shabbat Shalom. We are in our Exodus study, and we've made it to chapter 4 of Exodus, and we watched the entrance into Egypt, and we've seen Moshe rise up first to defend a Hebrew slave from an Egyptian taskmaster, and then have to flee to Midian, and where he resided for 40 years. And now Elohim, Yahuah, shows himself to him in a burning bush. And he then gets directives to what he's about to do. So this is where we are. This is what we've come to. And the Exodus account is very important to us as believers, as it shows us our entrance into the promised land, and how apropos that we're right here at the same time, because we're heading into the Passover time of year. So we'll start in chapter 4, verse 1. We're going to do the first 9 verses. Who would like to read the first 9 verses? If not, I will. All right. You finished eating, JP? Oh, June, go ahead.
I can defer to our deacon if you want me to.
That's going to be a running theme, brother. Deacon JP. Proud of you, brother. You going to read, or you going to let him read?
I'll take it. And Moshe answered and said, and if they do not believe me, nor listen to my voice, and say, Yahuah has not appeared to you, Yahuah has not appeared to you? And Yahuah said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moshe fled from it. And Yahuah said to Moshe, reach out your hand and seize it by the tail. So he reached out his hand and took hold of it, and it became a rod in his hand. So that they believe that Yahuah, Elohim of their fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Jacob, and the Elohim of Isaac and Jacob has appeared to you. And Yahuah said to him again, now put your hand in your bosom. And he put his hand in his bosom. And when he took it out, and see, his hand was leprous like snow. And he said, put your hand in your bosom again. So he put his hand in his bosom again, and drew it out of his bosom, and see, it was restored like his other flesh. Did you say to verse 9? I'm sorry.
Yeah, read verse 9 as well.
And it shall be, if they do not believe you, nor listen to the voice of the first sign, they shall believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall be, if they do not believe even these 2 signs, or listen to your voice, that you shall take water from the river and pour it on the dry land, and the water which you take from the river shall become blood on the dry land.
Anything stand out to you there?
He's really equipping him and empowering him to show that there's a powerful Elohim who is with him. And also kind of demonstrating on the spot there that that he can be used of the Father too, and how awesome the Father is to be able to do all of these miraculous signs.
Yeah. It's interesting that we see Moshe uncertain of himself, here. And, it's the humbleness of a leader, initially is to be unsure about his footing. And that's a great place to be, because at no point does that man, that woman lead without the presence of Yahuwah. So we see here in verse 2, he says, "What is that in your hand?" Right? What is that in your hand? And, that's the same questions that he asks Samson. What was in Samson's hand? Samson had a jawbone, the jawbone of a donkey in his hand. And, Samson might have said that this is just a jawbone of a donkey. And Yahuwah said, no, that's a weapon that you're going to use to slay 1,000 Philistines. Praise Yah. He asked David the same thing. What's in your hand? What did he say? I have some stones and a slingshot. He said, no, you're going to slay Goliath with that weapon. What did Yahusha say to the little boy? I have 5 loaves and 2 fish. No, you're going to feed all of these multitudes that stand before us. So Yahuwah takes what is common and turns it into miraculous power. And how it's by his hand that these things happen. At no point did Moshe ever think that he was the one doing this. When he referred back to himself, he slammed his stick on the rock rather than speak to it. And that was the demise of him seeing the promised land. So he always had to depend on Yahuwah being his power, not himself. And that doesn't change. We don't go out and say what we're going to do. I'm going to run and I'm going to see those guys on the corner. I'm going to run up to them and I'm going to bring it. Really? No, you have to depend on the Father to give you the words to say. And the moment that you step out of that, you'll get lost in the sauce. And it happens all the time. So we depend on the Father not only to lead us and guide us, but to speak through us, for us. And we can only do that by having a relationship with him, So, all right, couple hands, Sister Linda, and then Sister Poppy.
Yes, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. In reading the first verse, and Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, Yahuwah hath not appeared unto thee. It reminded me that we are oftentimes skeptical when someone says that Yahuwah said this, or Yahuwah said that, or Yahuwah manifests himself in this or that way. But this scripture reminds us that Yahuwah, he communicates with his children. He does manifest himself to his children. And he's a real Elohim, and he communicates with us in real ways. And so he gave the signs, but it just reminded me of that he definitely is real, and he does communicate with his children, whether people believe us or not. When we tell people that he's communicating with us, oftentimes, I say we in general, sometimes people have to have that personal experience or it happened to them in order for them to believe it. But we need to keep in mind that Yahuwah, he communicates with his children. Praise Yah.
Praise Yah, absolutely. Very good, sis. Sister Poppy.
I think I'm unmuted. I like seeing the progression in these, how he's building Moshe's confidence and showing him, teaching him like brick by brick. First he saw the burning bush and he was curious, And then the rod turned into a snake, and what did it say? He fled from it. Why do you flee from something? Because you're panicked, you're terrified. And then he turns around and says something happened there in Moshe's mind, because then he tells him to pick it up. I mean, he was terrified to have fled from it, and then he picks it up. That's a big stretch right there, a big change, I would think. I don't like snakes. You couldn't, I see one, I jump. I see them all the time in my yard, so I know this from experience. But to pick one up, no. I could not reach down and pick one up. So something happened there, like he started getting it. And I think that's pretty amazing. And then it doesn't mention when he stuck his hand in his shirt that it came out. It doesn't give a reaction. It was like he's knowing. He's seeing it. It's that bricks are being built, and he's getting it. I just think that's a neat little progression to watch. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think we watched this. We've watched this continually. As we went through. Excuse me. Sorry about that. As we went through Genesis, we saw that same progression with Abraham. We saw that same progression with Isaac, and most definitely Jacob and his 12 sons, right? They had to go through several things to get to the point of total trust. And when they're spoke of, it's only of the faith that they show that Yah smiles at. And going through Exodus, I've been reading a lot of historical accounts, and Josephus says that in the Hebrew language that Moses runs from the snake because it coils up as if it's going to strike him. So I mean, it doesn't say that here, but historically that very well could have happened. But it would make sense. But again, that's not written necessarily here in what we're reading. But absolutely, sis, you see him going from trust to trust, from faith to faith, as he understands. Because really, he doesn't know who this Yahuah is. He doesn't know who this Elohim is. He's finding out for the first time. He's heard of him through the Hebrews. And he also has knowledge of the deities that he served or had knowledge of when he was an Egyptian. And what I find interesting is that those are the things that these plagues are attacking. These plagues that Yahuwah is bringing are attacking the deities of Egypt. This first one mentioned when he speaks of the blood, the Nile river was the river of life for them. This was one of their deities, and he strips it down and says, no, I control this. Now, there's no deity of this river. I control it, and I can turn it to blood if I want to, to take away all your resources. So each plague he attacks one of the deities. So Brother JP.
Yeah, that was what I was kind of hitting on what you just said right now. I just found that, like, I don't know what it comes together as, but how Yahuwah just he attacked he showed his power and dominance over the animals, I guess you would say, the serpents, because he was able to have that dominance over that, or control, and the power. And then he also shows the power over the body, of Moses. And so through that, he's showing I have power over the body. And then also the power over, like you said, the water, which is essential for life. Without water, you die. You can go without food for a long time. Without water, though, is definitely another level. So, but I don't know what it is. I'm definitely, I like what you just brought out right now, because I read some stuff on that, but I just was seeing more like that power that Yahuwah is going to show the Pharaoh that he has. Like, I have power over the animals, over life. I have power over your body to make it to turn into what I want it to turn into. And then he has power to bring it back, like he did with Moses right now. He turned him from a leper back to normal. It was like, wow. So just wanted to bring that out. I just thought that was amazing.
Yeah, because one of the things that we also have to realize that the Pharaoh wasn't just a king. He was looked upon as a god to the Egyptian people, and the one who on their behalf called out to the different gods that they served and worshiped. So for Yahuwah to attack him, specifically, it tells us later on in Exodus 7 that Yahuwah specifically raised Pharaoh up so that he could show his power over him. You know what I mean? So he's orchestrating this, and we'll look at the same thing with the hardening of the heart. And what I found interesting is, he says he's going to harden his heart. And all of the instances where Pharaoh's heart is hardened, it's Pharaoh hardening his heart. But then when we get to the final hardening in chapter 9, it's Yahuwah hardens the heart of Pharaoh and then brings in his ultimate power. So it's interesting how he's orchestrating this to show his power, to show the people who he is, and at the same time showing Moses who he is, because Moses is still learning who this Elohim is, and we got to remember that. So these questions he's asking are for true. Like I don't know who you are, and who did I tell the people who are, and what if they don't believe me? I mean, just imagine, put yourself in that situation. The burning bush starts talking to you. You've been hiding from the Egyptians for 40 years. Burning bush starts talking to you, telling you what you got to go do. Now, first of all, I ran track. I'm out. I'm gone. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to catch me first to finish talking to me. So that's by nature, right? But just imagine coming to the realization of this is the Yah who made me. Like there's gonna have to take some convincing, and he sympathizes with that, understands his nature, and he does exactly what he needs. He gives him exactly what he needs to trust him. So let's definitely put ourselves in the shoes of the people we're reading about, because it helps bring a full understanding of what they're going through and what we go through at the same time, because this is also a picture of our walk with him. He has to continually show us his power. Sister Amy, she was saying, she was asking, do you really love me, Yah? If you love me, heal me. He had to show her something. How many of us do that? I mean, we pray that all the time. Yeah, what is going on here? What are you doing in my life? Why are these people that I love so much, why are they leaving Earth? I need them. My son, my daughter, my wife, whatever the case may be, my mother, do you love me? He has to continually show us, but are we listening? In the midst of what we're going through, do we stop and listen? And sometimes that's the hardest part. For us to be able to lose ourselves in our trouble and see him only. We have to look for his face, and I'm not going to say that's an easy thing all the time. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. And if we're honest today, we know that we have to get to the point where we trust him no matter what the situation is, because if we tell the truth today, we don't always trust. Not right off the bat. There takes some coercing, there takes some convincing, there takes some reminding. This is why, when Rick talked about memorials, do this in remembrance of me, it's important, because if you set this up as a memorial, you won't forget. You won't question when that time comes for you to trust me, right? You'll never take your eyes off of me. Praise God. Brother Donald, and then JP.
Yes, I like the message so far, and like you saying how Moshe didn't know what Elohim he was really serving under, and the Most High even hardened Pharaoh's heart to let him know, I am like Pharaoh is, like you say, he was a god, and people would serve him like he was a god. But Elohim said, "You have no other Elohim before me." He's letting you know that I am the one. I am the one of all things, and we all have to take into consideration, like you were saying, when he speaks to us sometimes, even us coming out of the different religions and coming into his true walk, we think is it him talking to us because we've been deceived so much, but he proves himself. And then we got to know when he proved himself, he puts us in a position to know that his voice that we are really hearing.
Praise God. Absolutely. I think he gives us confirmation too. You know, he shows a distinction between, you know, us, you know, hearing things and hearing him. You know, he confirms it through his people. He confirms it through the circumstances. You know, and sometimes we act and respond on our own strength, and it always fails. It always crumbles like a wet paper bag. JP.
Yeah, I was just, just looking at verse 8 right now, and it was, I was like, wow, it says, that if they won't, it shall come to pass that they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign. And so Yahuwah gives them a first sign. He's saying, well, he's ahead of time, of course, he's speaking before time, but he's saying, you're going to give them a first sign. They will not believe the voice of the latter sign. If they don't even believe the next sign I give them, that you're going to give them, he says, then you're going to turn the water into blood, and show them that power. So I don't know what that means in my mind. I was just thinking like, wow, like that's, Yahuwah's just been amazing in that way to me. Even in this situation, he's like, I'm going to give them a sign. If they don't believe that sign, then you're going to give them another sign. If they don't believe that one, then we're going to hit them with the water. And that's going to be, like you said, their lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
It's really going to wake them up. And then they probably, of course we see that they don't even believe that, So, but it's just, I don't know, something with the signs and the way Yahuwah is showing them is pretty amazing.
Yeah. So he had the sign of the crook of the staff, his hand when he put it in his breastplate and pulled it out, and then the final sign, which was the river into blood, and then that also becomes one of the plagues as well. So those were the three signs that he's speaking of there. So verse 10, who wants to read from verse 10 to verse 17? JP, you got that?
I'm sorry, go ahead, bro. I missed what you said.
Verse 10 to verse. Huh?
10 to 17?
What didn't you hear? The plagues or the verses?
No, the verses. You said,
oh, yeah. 10 to 17.
Okay. He says, and Moses said unto Yahuwah, O Yahuwah, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And Yahuwah said unto him, Who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb or deaf or the seeing or the blind? Have not I, Yahuwah? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth and teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O Yahuwah, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. And the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Moses. And he said, Is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee, and when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. And thou shalt speak unto him and put words in his mouth, and I will be with thy mouth, and with his mouth, and will teach you what you shall do. And he shall be thy spokesman unto the people, and he shall be, even he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of Elohim. And thou shalt take this rod in thy hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs. Wow. There's like implication, even like like sometimes, like for myself, I look at the implication of like, wow, like even at times when you feel like, and this is my own personal life, I'm like, I feel like, you know, do I have the right words to say? And what Yahuwah says, I love the verse 11, because he says, who hath made man's mouth, or who maketh the dumb or deaf, or the seen or the blind have I not? Yahuwah. And it just shows his the creation. He is the creator, you know, he's the everything. And so for us, you know, we see that he got upset with Moses, you know, in verse 14, the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against him for almost like questioning and being of little faith, shall we say. So that was pretty amazing. I'll leave it at that though.
Yeah, no, that's good. And we can see that repeated in the song. David repeats some of that. And when it comes to the anger, Psalm 90 verse 11 says, who knows the power of your anger? For as the fear of you, so is your wrath. You know what I mean? So, you know, the questioning, you know, at times is looked upon as ignorance and then a teaching. But sometimes it's looked at as, look, it's time for you to trust me now. Haven't I showed you? Haven't I told you? Don't you know? Do you know who I am? You know, how are you with me all of this time, Yahusha said, but yet you don't believe? You know, this type comes with prayer and fasting. Don't you know this? Haven't I taught you this? So there comes a point where it ought to become second nature to trust him. And I think we see that Yahuwah exhibits this towards Moshe. And we're going to see it again further in the chapter because he disobeyed him. So good point, brother. Is your hand back up again?
No, I'll be after the brother and sister.
So June, Rick, and then June.
Did you say me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You have your hand up?
Which one? Yeah, I did.
All right.
What I find very intriguing about this here is what you guys are just referencing. You know, Yahuwah's called him. He showed him already some of these signs that he's saying that they won't listen to him. And yet Yahuwah said, you know what, they're not going to listen to none of these signs. So yet he's sending him and he's saying, you know what, I ain't qualified. You know, I'm slow to speech and, you know, slow my tongue. And Yahuwah says, you know, I got this, you know, you got to trust in me. And I'm seeing this speaking to us, you know, it's like how many times we look is like, you know, I don't know what to do or how to do this or whatever. But if Yahuwah's called you to do something, he gives you what you need. Even in this case, he's saying, you know, who's made your mouth? You know, he's asking him these questions because now you're questioning him. You don't understand his power and his authority, who you're dealing with here. You know, Moshe had really, I guess he didn't have an understanding that Yahuwah can help him do whatever. And he started to show him these things by the rod and all those type of things. And then as we get in here, I see these Aleph Tavs, of course, they catch my attention, as you guys well know. But, you know, the first ones that I see starting here is Exodus 4:15. He says, and you shall speak unto him and put Aleph Tav, the words in his mouth. So he's going to put those covenant words in his mouth. And I'll be with your mouth, he says. I will be with your word. I'll be with your words. And with his. So he's saying, I'm going to be with you. I'll give you the words to speak. If that's the same thing he's telling us. We don't need to worry. He's got us. We see the scripture says when we stand before the judge, you don't got to worry about what to say. The Ruach will give that to you when it's time. And then he goes on and continues in the same verse. And he says, and we'll teach you Aleph Tav, what you shall do. So he's making a covenant with them that he's going to give them the words. He's going to tell them what to do and give them what they need exactly when they need it. And then we see again these Aleph Tavs in the 17th verse where he says, and you shall take Aleftav, this rod, in your hand. So now he's already showed him that he's with him with this rod. He's making an agreement that, hey, you use this. This is your power, the authority. I'm gonna give some signs and things with this. I'm gonna use this. And this is part of the covenant agreement I have with you. And then he goes on and says, wherewith you shall do Aleftav's signs. So he's going to give him the power, the authority through the covenant that he's already established with him on behalf of his people. You know, that he's using this man, he's empowering this man, he's equipping this man to be able to go here before the most powerful man in all the lands, the Pharaoh. And he's going to deliver the words. What am I going to say? You know, I'm scared, you know, who am I? You know, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to give you the words. I'm going to give you the power to do the things you need to do. Don't worry about it. I go before you. I'm with you in your words, in your actions, everything. Even in the staff you got. I see Yahuwah saying, I got you. Don't worry. You know, I see the same thing he's telling us. So, you know, it's a beautiful story of, you know, trusting that Amunah coming in here to know that, hey, my Elohim got me. And he's going to provide what I need even before the most powerful man. I don't got to worry. You know, who is he? So that's what I see. Covenants.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. I also like you know, how Yahuwah ushers in Aaron here in that same passages you're talking about. And he basically tells them, I'm going to tell you what to say. You're going to tell Aaron what to say. And the fact that he says, and you will be as an Elohim to him, means that I'm going to tell you what to say. You're not going to change not one thing I say. And he's going to do exactly what you say. So basically, Moshe here, we're seeing him again as a type of Messiah as he becomes the mediator between Yahuwah and Aaron to deliver the message. So that's a beautiful portion right there as well.
But that's also kind of a symbol also when you look at Aaron and he's empowered him. He's equipped him as his right-hand man, you know. You know, they're both equally, if you look at Yahusha, which is, you know, in that line too, you know, you're going to see how he's equipping and empowering those people. And that's like to me, it's a symbol of the same thing we see with, you know, Joseph and the Pharaoh before him. You know, it's like this hierarchy that he's going to do what he needs to do to make things happen. You know, he did it with them. He's going to do it with Moshe too. So awesome.
Yeah. All right. We got a lot of hands. All right. June, and then JP, and then I'll figure out between the other three ladies. I don't know who had their hand up first. But June, then JP, and we'll work it out.
I just had a quick comment, and I loved hearing what everyone's pulled out so far, JP, Brother Rick, and yourself. But I was thinking when it says in verse where it says that Yahuwah's anger burned against him, verse 14, and the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Moshe. So he was quite upset, you know, because, you know, Yahuwah wouldn't have picked him if he didn't know that he was capable of doing what he asked him to do. But I also see the graciousness of our Father, because even though he was angry and upset, he still was amenable to kind of work with Moshe, if you will, because he's like, okay, I know you're capable of doing it, or I wouldn't have asked you to do it, but okay, I see I see Aaron's on the way, and I know he's very eloquent in speaking. So it was almost like he was willing to work with Moshe by allowing this process where he speaks to Moshe and then Moshe speaks to Aaron, because that wasn't his original plan or instruction. His original instruction was you speak directly to Pharaoh. But the graciousness here was he was upset with him, but he was willing to, say, okay, well, let's work through Aaron then, since he's an eloquent speaker. But and it's encouragement for all of us when the Father calls us to do things and we don't feel equipped, or we're scared, or we don't feel like we can talk properly or whatnot, to trust him and rely on him, because he wouldn't have asked us to do it if he didn't think we were capable, or if he wasn't planning to empower us to do so, because it's never in our strength anyway. It's through him that he, literally in this situation, the Father's literally speaking through Moshe, because the words that Aaron speaks is coming from the Father. So that's all.
Yeah, very important. I think you found the key to the passage, and that's that our soul, our full selves are offered to him, like to be used. Like we take nothing with us. Like there's nothing I can add to this passage for me to do. I have to do what he tells me to do, and I have to pray and hope that he uses me the way that he wants to. I think in this passage, though, I'm not positive that this wasn't his initial plan. I'm looking at it like Moshe didn't know what the plan was, and Yahuwah was already making provision, because later in the chapter, he sends Aaron to meet Moshe. So it very well could have been that he was going to use Aaron in the first place. Moshe just didn't know it. He just wanted Moshe to trust him, period. Like when I'm devising a plan for you, just do what I want you to do. I'm sending Aaron, but it could have been it wasn't his plan too, and that Aaron was his roundabout option. So it could be both ways, but just wanted to bring that out as well. But yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it on the nail when you said it's his voice that we speak. It's his words that we speak. Nothing more, nothing less. Brother JP.
Just want to tie in, that word, it's interesting because that word eloquent is 1697, and I was looking at it, and it just says, according to the Strongs, it's pretty a basic word like speech, right? And so, yeah, but when we go to the book of Acts, it says in Acts 7:22, and Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and
Right.
was mighty in words and in deeds. And so I found that amazing as well. Just to add to what was being said, is that in my speculation, I'm just speculating, is that maybe there was like also a fear of facing his what it would be is like, I don't know, was that as like a stepdad or something? The Pharaoh, he was raised under the Pharaoh all these years, and all of a sudden he has to go back and face him. And so there's like, I don't know, I guess I'm just gonna throw it out there. Maybe there was a different, in my own, like I said, speculating, this like a different in language. He was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds. But when it came to this, I don't know, there was some type of different speech that he was going to be, that Aaron had. You know what I mean? A different type of speech. So I just put it like that. And I just was contemplating on that. So
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head. Because when he announces Aaron to him, he says, "Is not Aaron the Levite, your brother?" So Moshe, yes, was eloquent in Egyptian learning, but the Levite knew Yah's learning. So that's the difference. Absolutely, there's a definite difference, and that's why he used Aaron. So yeah, praise Yah. That's a good point, JP. All right. I have Sister Robbie and Sister Amy. I don't know who had their hand up first, but I'm going to go with Sister Robbie. I haven't heard from her in quite some time, and then Amy. Sister Robbie.
I was interested in just increasing even more of my just appreciation for Father Yahuah and his power and his compassion in Exodus chapter 4, verse 11, where it talks about, and that Yahuah said to him, Who appointed a mouth for man, or who appointed the speechless, or the deaf, or the clear-sighted, or the blind? Yahuwah knew because of Adam and Eve's sin that people would be born speechless, they would be blind, they would be deaf, they would have these disabilities. And he has compassion because he has power over this. He showed through Yahusha that when he came to earth, he healed those that were blind. Those who couldn't speak, they were able to speak. He showed that he has the power to heal, and that's what he could do. So he has the power to help Moshe speak, to represent him, that he could do anything. Nothing's impossible for the Father. He also has the power for those who don't have faith, like Zechariah. He couldn't believe that his wife Elizabeth would have a baby. He says, you know what? You didn't believe the angel, so you're not going to talk until after she has this baby. So he could do it. He could close our mouths. He caused Shaul to not be able to see. And then he sent his prophet to remove that blindness that he had. So our Abba could do anything. He does all things for his glory and his power. And he's compassionate and gracious, just like Sister June was bringing out as well, as we continue to build our trust in him. Praise Yah.
Praise Yah, sister. That was beautiful. You know, and that's one of the beautiful things about the way we study, is that people pull out things that others might overlook, you know, and, you know, there's a lot, you know, all of these verses are important, and we're pulling out all these different things and looking at different things. Verse 11 wasn't even in my notes, not in any specific way, the way you pulled it out. So I really appreciate you showing that tie into not just with the Father and who he has made, but the attention to understanding that this is who Yahusha came to heal. You know what I mean? In his miracles, in his travels, this is what he was doing. So great point. Great pull out. I appreciate that, sis. And good,
Yes, praise Yah.
good to see you too.
Thank you.
Sister Amy, what you got?
Yeah, I just want to say with what JP mentioned, I thought it was interesting as well, because if you remember, Moses was sent away from the house of Pharaoh for like 40 years. That's a long time before he went back. So for me, this is my bit, that maybe he lost his, pride, firstly. Pride, okay, because he had a lot of pride because he was raised as an Egyptian. He would have been bold, proud, like a man, you know, man of the, and then you get taken away to Father. I know there's some humble pie getting it when you get sent off to Abba's feet, because I've experienced it in my own life. I've had the humble pie, and it's, you know, when you, see some of the judgment, because Moses recognized seeing the judgment. He tasted the judgment. I think he was a bit of a different man by that time, and then obviously being sent to his brother. But what came to mind when it was being read out, so that's one thing that came to mind. But the other one, what was interesting in Luke 12, verse 9, 10, and 11 says this, and I think it actually reminds me as an actual shadow, not a shadow, sorry, Moses is a shadow of the book of Luke with Messiah, when it says in verse 9, but he that denieth me before men shall be denied before the messengers of Al. And verse 10, and whosoever shall speak a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him, but unto him that blasphemeth against the Ruach HaKodesh, it shall not be forgiven. Verse 11 is the main one. I just wanted to add the context of the verse. And when they bring you, us, Moses, at this time, onto the synagogues or onto the magistrates or the powers, take ye no thought of how or what thing ye shall say or answer to them, or what or what you shall say, for the Ruach HaKodesh, verse 12, shall teach you in the same hour what ye ought to say. And I find that really interesting, because obviously we see here the Father's telling Masha the same thing Messiah is in Luke is telling the disciples when they drag you to, not only obviously to the so-called people of the house of Yah, but also the powers and the magistrates, the governmental system of that day, which is technically what Pharaoh was. That's what Masha was, escaped from it, and then he was being sent back to deliver the people also as himself, so that they could be free from the chains of bondage. And he was being led towards this Pharaoh-type magistrate who could kill him. And obviously he was afraid also as well. A prophet is not respected in his own land. So that used to be his own land. So all this thought could have been going on in Masha's head, you know, like, oh, no way, I'm not going back there. They're going to, like, whatever they're going to do. So, yeah, it's powerful. That's what I kind of seen when it was being, spoken of, for the Ruach, power of the Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah, great point. I definitely see the 40 years in the wilderness. You know what I mean? Because not only did he leave royalty, he became a shepherd. You know what I mean? You know how the Egyptians looked at shepherds. That was the bottom line. That was the bottom of the totem pole. You were, you know, a shepherd was the worst occupation you could have. You know, so. And it's interesting how the shepherds were the first one to see Yahusha. But
yeah, and the fighters.
So when you brought that out, you could see him definitely, you know, because he left for fear of his life. He was humbled, like you said, or like the older sisters say, humbled. He was humbled, and he was now being put in a position to return, although it was a different Pharaoh and different regime, because he returns after the people, everything changed hands. So it wasn't the same one. But the point was, he was returning, and that fear, the uncertainty, plus him just finding out who Yahuwah was, what words to speak, how should he trust him. I think all of those things work in to the full understanding of what was going through Moshe's mind at that moment, but still doesn't excuse us from trusting Yah. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely, 100%. But I just recognize the fact that he'd become a humble and contrite individual, coming from bold and proud and out there, you know, up front. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but obviously there's a time for everything, and I think that would have been extremely difficult to go from being totally humbled, quiet, contrite, you know, getting in a level. He got married, he'd had kids, and then he's sent back into this chaotic place. Like even me last week when I went back, it was just, the whole thing was too much for me, you know. So I can identify, like,
absolutely,
whoa,
absolutely.
It's way too much, because I got angry myself. So it's a tough one.
Praise Yah. Very good, sis. All right, so we are now in verse 18. So the next reader can go from verse 18 to verse 31, to the end of the chapter. Verse 18 to the end of the chapter. Brother Nate.
Then Moshe went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, "Please let me go and return to my brothers who are in Mitzrayim to see whether they are still alive." And Jethro said to Moshe, "Go in peace." And Yahuwah said to Moshe and Midian, "Go and return to Mitzrayim, for all the men are dead who sought your life." So Moshe took his wife and his sons and set them on a donkey, and he returned to the land of Mitzrayim, and Moshe took the rod of Elohim in his hand. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, "As you go back to Mitzrayim, see that you do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in your hand. But I'm going to strengthen his heart so that he does not let the people go. And you shall say to Pharaoh, thus said Yahuwah, Yisrael is my son, my firstborn. So I say to you, let my son go to serve me. But if you refuse to let him go, see, I am killing your son, your firstborn. And it came to be on the way in the lodging place that Yahuwah met him and sought to kill him. And Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and threw it at his feet and said, you are indeed a bridegroom of blood to me. So he let him go. Then she said, you are a bridegroom of blood because of the circumcision. And Yahuwah said to Aharon, go to meet Moshe in the wilderness. And he went and met him on the mountains of Elohim and kissed him. Moshe then told Aharon all the words of Yahuwah who had sent him and all the signs which he had commanded him. And Moshe went with Aharon and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aharon spoke all the words which Yahuwah had spoken to Moshe. Then he did the signs before the eyes of the people. And the people believed, and they heard that Yahuwah had visited the children of Israel, that he had looked on their affliction, and that they bowed their heads and did obeisance.
Brother, what you say?
You know, there's quite a bit here. I'm sure that we're going to touch on Exodus 4:22, so I'm going to go to maybe 4:25 or 24 and 25. I see that, you know, and it came to be on the way in the lodging place that Yahuwah met him and sought to kill him. You know, I've said this to quite a few people, and they're like, no, that never happened. And then I'm like, well, go look, you know, Exodus 4:24, and they go and look, and they're like, what? Like, why is Yahuwah trying to kill Moshe? You know, and then you see that his sons weren't circumcised. So again, I see a level of you know, Moshe's going to it's a similar pattern to when Joshua brings the you know, Yasharal, when Joshua brings them in the promised land, and they're purifying the promised land, and then Achan sins, and then, you know, 36 men die at the city of Ai. They went back and found the sin in their camp, removed it, and then went again purifying the land again. It's the same thing of remove the rafter from your eye so that you can better see, to help it remove it from your neighbor's eye. You know, about, you know, not judging with hypocrisy, but judging with righteousness. I see here that Yahuwah is sending Moshe to go pull his people out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of slavery and out of a level of confusion that they're all in, to go pull them out and bring them into a covenant. And Moshe, you know, doesn't have his house in order. And so we know that Moshe is meek. You know, it says that he was the meekest. And we know that Zipporah's father was Yithro, which means exalted one. He was a priest of Midian, you know. And so what it looks like is Moshe wasn't doing according to the word that Yahuwah had commanded his people to do. And Yahuwah had to basically put his back against the wall to get the situation to happen, because he wanted Moshe to be an example, and so that people couldn't be like, well, who are you, you know, raised up above us? You don't even have your son circumcised. So that's kind of how I see that. But I'm open for discussion if someone sees it a different way, and maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Yeah, nah, you're looking at it absolutely right. I mean, I had a whole thing I was going to hit on that, and you basically, you know, shot it up like Swiss cheese. But thanks, brother. No, it's all good. I appreciate your attention to that, because, you know, this is a direct this is a direction to Moshe to have his house in order. You know, the Egyptians, they circumcised their sons at the age of puberty, around 13, 14. The Midianites, where Moshe was, they circumcised the men right before they were married. So go figure that. How you get circumcised right before you get married? But that was their custom. So apparently, this is based upon historically, one of his sons was circumcised, the other one wasn't. And it appears, because the language reads, that the wife responds in a way and is angry, probably because she was unable to continue in the custom of the Midianites. She had to cut the flesh off of her son, and we see what she says to Moshe after that. But this is what Nate said. This is Yah's representative has not yet maintained the covenant. The covenant is back in Genesis 17. It was set with Abraham, you know. And then we read in Exodus. Let me look at Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, verse 48 says, and when a stranger dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover to Yahuah, let all his males be circumcised, and let them come near and keep it, and he shall be as a native of the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat. One law shall be for the native born and for the stranger who dwells among you. So, absolutely, brother, you about to lead my people, and your son is not circumcised, you know. And it speaks to when we're called to being qualified in the eyes of Yahuwah, you know. You know, JP, I'm gonna use you as an example. JP was just, you know, called to be a minister, called to be a deacon in this fellowship, and those requirements are real. You know, we read, and I'll read out of the expanded Greek in 1 Timothy. I'm going to read a lot of verses here, so just stay with me, because, and the reason I'm reading this is because it speaks to what Yahuwah looks at, right? If we are, like Nate said, to be a minister, to be the voice, then all of the things that he requires have to be lined up. Those things were not lined up. That's where the anger came from. It says in 1 Timothy, out of the expanded Greek, it says, this is a trustworthy word. If a certain one seeking the office of an overseer, he passionately desires a good work, it is necessary in the nature of the case, therefore, that the overseer be irreproachable, a one-wife kind of man. That also means eyes for only one woman, right? He isn't frivolously taken away by other women, and, you know, that needs to be his own. He only has eyes for her. Calm, dispassionate, and circumspect, sober-minded, one whose life is in accord with the position he holds, in which an adornment it is. Hospitable, a skilled teacher, not addicted to wine, not pugnacious, but sweetly reasonable, being a lover of money. Being satisfied with less than his due, not contentious, not a lover of money, presiding over his own household in a beautiful manner, holding children within the sphere of implicit obedience, doing so with the strictest regard to propriety. Indeed, if a person does not know how to preside over his own household, how is it possible that he take care of Elohim's assembly? And this is exactly what Yahuwah was pulling out of Moshe. You have to have rule over your household before you rule my people. Not a new convert, lest having his mind blinded by pride, he fall into the judgment of the devil. Moreover, it is a necessity in the nature of the case for him also to be having an excellent testimony from those on the outside, lest he fall into reproach and into the snare of the devil. Deacons, here we go, in like manner, should be grave and dignified, not double-tongued, not addicted to much wine, not greedy of gain, holding the mystery of the faith in the pure conscience. And these, moreover, are the first put to the test for the purpose of being approved. And then approved, if they meet the specifications, then let them be serving as deacons, provided they are unaccused. Women, likewise, should be grave and dignified, not slanderers, calm, dispassionate, and circumspect, faithful in all things. Let the deacons be one-wife sort of men, ruling their children and their households in a commendable way. For those who have ministered in the office of a deacon in the commendable manner acquire a good standing for themselves and much confidence in the sphere of the faith which is in Yahusha Messiah. So we look at, these requirements, they are the same. The covenant had to be adhered to. Moshe did not. He was in disobedience as far as Yahuwah was concerned, and Yahuwah sought to kill him. Imagine that. Here's this man he calls out to be his mouthpiece, but he's got some kinks in his armor. He's got some dirt in his house. We're entering Pesach. We are to get the leaven out. We are the called out ones, so this all ties into understanding who we are as we become messengers of the Father. So I hope that sinks in, because that's our call too. Each and every one of us, we want to run out and we want to teach and we want to speak to the people and we want to do this and we want to do that. But we have to make sure that we're standing up rightly before him, lest our testimony be blown, be obliterated. How can I go speak, to a group of men if I'm sitting in a bar drinking with them, chasing women around? I don't have a testimony. Why should I listen to you? You in here with me. We got to be mindful of those things in our lives. Praise God. Thanks, brother. Sister Amy.
Yeah, I would say that about sums up Brother JP, what you just read. As a deacon, I mean, as a deserving position, if that's what he's been given, I would say he was I've never met him, but I'd say he's a humble man of the Most High, and that's the most important trait. So I just want to add that. But I wanted to ask, brother, when it was mentioned before, it's played on my mind a few times before, and obviously because we're coming up to Pesach, and obviously I believe in circumcision inwardly and outwardly, and I know there's a circumcision of the flesh and a circumcision inwardly to do with the heart, and I also believe in circumcision for what we're reading about now as well. I believe there's a relevance for that. So my Reuben is not done, and I have tried to get him done many years ago, even when he was 2, and there was such a battle over trying to get him done when he was little. And I still want to get him done, and there's still a battle, and obviously where we're at now, it's even more difficult. So that worries me, because I know Sipura grabs a stone and it's a sharpened stone and she cuts the end off, and
Well,
like
I'll say this: don't try.
No,
don't
no,
grab
I'm
no
not.
stones.
I'm not.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm definitely. Listen, my child is like a nut job, in a good way. So there's I'd have to tie him and straight jacket him to do that kind of stuff, and I couldn't, no. So it does worry me, and because I do believe the symbolicness of the outside and the inside, and Messiah never mocked those cleaning the outside of the cup in regards to it's wrong. He actually, obviously we know, he said clean first the inside and then the outside will be done also. So he wasn't saying like clean the inside and then just like leave the outside to let it all hang out and just do what you like. he was
Yeah, well,
kind of, you know,
let me step in. Let me step in here. So there's several reasons that it's done to a child on the 8th day. The blood starts to coagulate on that day when a child is born. Coagulate means to clot.
Okay.
So when the skin is cut, it clots and the blood stops. This is anatomy. This is science.
Right.
And this is Yahuah. You know what I mean? So he does it exactly when the body is prepared to do it. Vitamin K in the body also shoots. Even now, when they do it in the hospital, they do it immediately. The doctor had to give Darius a shot of vitamin K to help him because it didn't coagulate on its own, because that doesn't happen to the 8th day. So
is Darius your son? Or?
Darius is my son, yes, my youngest son.
Okay, just to clarify, so I know.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to where we are now, okay, so it's very important, you know, Shaul talks in Acts about circumcision, and it is a heart thing. It is an outward expression of a heart issue that we have with him. I would not suggest at his age, you have a young son, at this age that it's something that you should do now. You know, there's definite health benefits to having the foreskin cut off, but I'm not a doctor. I would say, you know, seek a physician's advice, you know, maybe even someone in the faith, possibly. That might be difficult where you are, but
yeah,
that's not something that you necessarily need to be worried about being afraid of, you know.
Okay.
Your son having a belief in Yahuah, Yahusha, is enough if he never got his foreskin cut off. He can do that to be obedient completely, but that's not a prerequisite to being of the Father of the Son. So when he comes of age, if he's a man and he wants to do it, I would say leave that to him. But that will be devastating to him at this time and painful, something that he may not understand.
Yeah, I have tried to discuss it with him.
Put on his conscience to allow you to do it. Like, this is why mommy's doing that. Nah, not at this age. And that's my advice. It's not necessarily something that, you know, I would say all people do, but I would say if it were me and my son wasn't yet, I would wait till he was ready, because the Father looks at the heart. You know, the circumcision is of the heart. The baptism is of belief. You know, we're doing something outwardly as a demonstration to show that we are the people. You know,
yeah, thank you, brother Elder.
The Hebrews were distinctively different because they were circumcised. So, yeah, ease your mind with that. Yeah,
I thought it was a good time to raise, because I'm probably not the only one who's maybe kind of thought it. But, you know, yeah, I have had a discussion with my little boy as well, you know, because I thought, you know, it may need to be done. And it was kind of funny. It was kind of a funny conversation, you know. He's only little. So thank you.
All right, no problem. Sister Linda and then Brother Brian.
Praise Yah. I just wanted to make a few points pertaining to the chapter that we're on today. The first thing, this just keeps resonating in my ruach, and we are at a time where Father is exalting people. He's looking for children to use for his purpose and plan. I would encourage anyone that has a desire to be a servant of righteousness for the Father to spend time in his presence, so that his ruach will be with their mouth. Isaiah, Jeremiah, they all had a problem of feeling that they weren't competent. And I think what the Father was telling them is that it's not in the eloquence. It's in me being with your mouth. And in order for me to be with your mouth, that means I have to anoint you. you have to be speaking my words, because there's a difference with people speaking their own words and the Father speaking through them. Yahusha said, my words are ruach, and they are life. We know that the Father says, so shall my words be that goeth forth out of my mouth. They shall not return unto me void, but they shall accomplish that which I please and prosper in the thing whereto I send it. So that's very important. There's a completely different operation going on there with us building the house ourselves, or whether Yahusha is building it. And it behooves us to stay in his presence, to set apart in his presence, so that his true ruach flows through our mouth. The second point that I wanted to, because it really does make a difference in the lives of people. You see the difference in the life. Otherwise, we might be perpetuators of death and not even know it, because the word tells us death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruits thereof. Some people speak death. They don't speak life in the lives of other people. And when you are walking in the ruach, you're able to discern that. The second thing I wanted to just touch on a little bit is 4:22. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith Yahuah, Yasharal, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. There's just one thing in particular that I wanted to mention pertaining to this, that I saw the other day when I was preparing, Elder Rod, for your message, for your study this afternoon. And that's found in Leviticus 25 and 55. It was never the Father's desire that Yasharal, when they came out of Egypt, to be a servant or slave to anyone. Even within their own culture, if someone was going to be a bondservant, he made a way for them to be completely redeemed back out and not treated as like a regular slave or a bond person would be treated. In 25 and 55, he says, for unto me the children of Yasharal are servants. They are my servants, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahuah, your Elohim. And I just want to make that point, that he never ever wanted his children, Yasharal, to be a servant, a slave to anyone. Because our purpose has always been to be his servants of righteousness, to go forth in his purpose and his plan. Praise Yah.
Praise Yah. Brother Brian, and then JP.
Oh yeah. I just want to make a comment about it's interesting that Yahuah, like with this whole situation with the circumcision, it's like this is like before Mount Sinai, and Yah gives Moshe the commandments and all that stuff in written form, and it's just like interesting that like he's holding him accountable for keeping the law. And it's just like, it just goes to show that they were well, like there was an awareness of Yah's expectations before the law was given at Mount Sinai. And it's like, sometimes, like I know traditionally, like when I read scripture before, I was just like assumed that no one knew what Yah's law was until Mount Sinai. And it's like here, it's like, it seems to be clear that they did know. Otherwise, Yah was one of Moshe when almost like got taken out. So it's like it's interesting there. The other comment I wanted to make about the Deacon J and his things. I just wanted to say, Deacon J, he truly has the heart of a shepherd. Over the years that I've known him with the fellowship and stuff, he has that heart, a great heart for people. And he's definitely encouraged me over the years, and he's one of those people when the sheep is absent, he goes after him, and he's encouraged me in that way, encouraged other brothers in that way. So love you, brother JP, and I know you'll be a good fit for that office, brother. So shalom, brother, love you.
Absolutely. And one of the qualifications is that people speak those same words about you. So that's clarification. It shouldn't be a surprise. It should be like, how did he him? Are you sick? What? Nah. It should be approved by the people as well. So praise Yah. JP, then Nate, then Jim.
Yeah, you know, right here in when he says in 421, but I will harden his heart that he shall not let the people go. It sounds at first glance we read it and it seems as if Yahuwah hardened his heart, like literally. But then when you see it in 8:15 of Exodus, we see after the plagues, had happened, plagues have happened, it says, but when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart and hearkened unto them, as Yahuwah had said. So I guess the way I was seeing it was that through what happened, because we do have choice, according to what is it, Deuteronomy 30, I believe Deuteronomy 30 verse 15. So Pharaoh had a choice, but through all of this that had happened, his heart was hardened. And so when we read it in 21, it almost seems like for a lot of people will take it, and it probably could still see that way, like that Yahuwah hardened his heart that he was not going to budge. But I believe personally that Pharaoh did have a choice, but he made the choice that was already prophesied in a sense by Yahuwah. You know what I mean? It was kind of interesting, just that way of looking at it. So just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no, that's good, because really it's in chapter 7 verse 13, chapter 7 verse 22, 8:15, 8:19, 8:32, 9:7. It's all attributed to Pharaoh having a choice. But when we get to chapter 9 verse 16 is when Yahuwah says, I have raised him up for this purpose in demonstrating my power. You see how he had his hand over the whole thing, even when Pharaoh had a choice. So it was still Yahuwah who raised him up to show his power. So good point, brother. Nate, and then Jim.
I was going to mention, I was waiting for someone else to bring it up, but no one else is going to bring it up, so I'll touch on it here. Let me kind of get back to what this says here. So in Exodus, sorry, I don't know if there's someone talking in the background. Anyways, in Exodus 4:22, it says that thus said Yahuwah, Yisrael is my son, my firstborn. And when you look at who Yisrael is, Jacob, if you will, right? That's not his firstborn. So when you look at it with those the fleshly understanding, if you will, Yisrael is not his firstborn. Esau was the firstborn, and Jacob was second. But we see it's talking about a spiritual line, a spiritual awakening that you have there, being counted as the firstborn. I just kind of wanted to touch on a couple scriptures that kind of connect into that. One is Hebrews 12. I'll just read 22 and 23. But you have drawn near to Mount Sion, to the city of the living Elohim, to heavenly Jerusalem, to the myriads of messengers, to the entire gathering and assembly of the firstborn, having been enrolled in heaven, and to Elohim, the judge of all. So we see that assembly of the firstborn, and so it's talking about, Yasharal is what it's talking about there, which is the assembly of the firstborn. And kind of to back that up in a couple other scriptures that I have, 1 Peter 2:9 says, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a people for a possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. So you see that when you called out of darkness into light, that's literally the definition of the word Hebrew. You know, you crossed over. The Passover, that Hebrew, you're coming from darkness to light. And then I think I have another scripture here. Yeah. And so when it says a set apart nation, I had just recently done a study on that. The word that they use there for set apart, or in the Greek, or in the English we'd say holy nation. That Greek word is hagios there. It's the same word that they use there for set apart or holy, a holy nation. And the word nation is ethnos that they use there in the Greek. But a hagios ethnos, or a holy nation, or a set apart nation, that's the same word that they use there, hagios, for Revelation 17:6, talking about, and I saw the woman, right? This is that harlot, right? Babylon the Great. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the set apart ones. Now, the English translation will say the saints. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints. But when you look at that word there is hagios, that is set apart ones. And so you see that's there. So I just wanted to connect, talking about Yisrael as my firstborn, and that we are called to be a set apart nation, and being set apart. Again, they use that word hagios. It's specifically set apart, or which is what it is. So she's drunk on the blood of his people, to kind of connect it in there. But I just kind of wanted to make that point that the firstborn are those who are set apart, those who are called to be of his people.
Right. He repeats that too in Hosea 11:1. He says, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. He also mentions that same phrase in Jeremiah 31:9, I believe. But yeah, good point, brother. June?
I had a kind of a question or wonderment, and not necessarily looking for like an absolute answer, but we read in verse 24, and it came to be on the way in the lodging place that Yahuwah met him, referring to Moshe, and sought to kill him. And then it just seemed like out of nowhere, his wife Zipporah, circumcised their son. And I was just curious, like, was it a known thing? Like how did she know that that's what Yahuwah was upset about? And then I was also curious, when she says, you are the bridegroom of blood, is she speaking this to Yahuwah? Like, because
No,
she makes this statement, this exclamation twice, like almost like she's upset,
Yeah, so the custom of the Bedouin and the Midianites was to circumcise the young men right before marriage versus when they were young. So one of according to the passage, one of his sons was circumcised and one wasn't. So there was a clear understanding of what Hebrews did, circumcised on the 8th day. And it looks and it appears to be, now this is just based on history, it appears to be that she wanted to hold to the Bedouin, the Midianite philosophy in circumcising right before marriage, and knew exactly what pressure Moshe was under, because he hadn't circumcised that one particular son. so she knew exactly what to do to remove the wrath. So that's the best answer I have for you there.
And what about when she was exclaiming, "You are indeed a bridegroom of blood to me"?
Again, angry that she couldn't hold to the custom of the Midianites. She had to cut the foreskin off of her son prior to when she normally would have for their custom. That's why she mentioned the bridegroom, because the custom was to cut the skin off of the bridegroom prior to marriage versus following the Hebrew custom and Moshe following Yahuwah's orders. But she knew that it was necessary to do to keep her husband alive and to keep her home protected as well.
Wow. Thank you.
All right, JP and then Poppy.
Just to bring out a couple proverbs for pertaining to the hardening of the heart. Here in Proverbs 21:29 says, "A wicked man hardeneth his face, but as for the upright, he directeth his way. There is no wisdom nor understanding nor counsel against Yahuwah." Another one that speaks about this hardening is Proverbs 28:14 says, "Happy is the man that feareth always, but he that hardeneth his heart shall fall into mischief." And then the last one I want to speak on, it says in Proverbs 29, verse 1 and 2, "He that being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn." So just to speak on some of those, that hardening of the heart, and just kind of something that I was just meditating on for myself and ourselves, is to be humble, so to listen, I guess. Praise Yah.
Absolutely. Hardening of the heart is an example of being defiant towards Yahuwah. And it leads to death, as you read in the Proverbs. So praise Yah. Sister Poppy.
I also have a question. When also about verse 24, it says that Yahuwah met him and sought to kill him. That's because uncircumcision of the boys or boy, but Yah would have known. So
What do you mean he would have known?
He would have known that the boy was not circumcised. So why would
he did know? That's why he sought to kill him.
Yeah, but wouldn't he have I don't know, before that point, I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something.
You got what we got. He says in verse 24, he met him at the end and sought to kill him. So, I mean, whether he knew before or he could have approached him at another time, it says he approached him here. So this was the time to and I think there's something to be said about all of the things. You remember when we read to 1 Timothy, we talked about having your house in order. Here, this happens right in front of his wife, his sons, and whoever was around and close to the family at that point, because it gave structure to and a lesson to anyone else who heard or saw. So Zipporah knew right away that they were in defiance of Yah's law, and she did it. So I think there was a specific purpose and a reason as to why. One of the things, Sister Diane, before I go to you, does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, that was actually where I was wondering.
Great.
Thank you.
I wanted to touch on something that we didn't look at. And it says in verse 18, it says, "So Moshe went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, 'Please let me go and return to my brethren who are in Egypt, and whether they are still alive. And Jethro said to Moshe, go in peace. So this speaks to something that we need to be aware of. This speaks to order. This speaks to doing the right thing. So you're in the fellowship. You're in the fellowship of Assemblies of Yahuah, you know. You feel like the Yah is sending you to do something else. Leave with a blessing. You know what I mean? Come to the brothers and say, listen, come to the sisters and say, I feel like Yah's doing this stuff, and so this is why. Have a conversation. Be blessed to go. You know, don't just leave. You know what I mean? And leave question or leave thought or leave doubt. You know, and I think this happens a lot in ministry. You know, people get frustrated, or, you know, maybe they see something, maybe things aren't going in a direction. They need to have the conversation so as to the reasons why. You know, it's very important. And I think Moshe knows he's being called by Yah here. He doesn't just leave. He holds the respect of his father-in-law and says, do you give me the blessing to go? Matter of fact, he asks him for the blessing to go. And I think there's something to say about that when it comes to people that you fellowship with, you know, and doing things right and in order. Because when you don't, there's always strife. There's always the unknown, you know, and unknown is sometimes worse than strife because you don't know what the reason is, you know. Maybe it's something I said. Maybe it's something I could repent from, you know. I didn't like the way Brother Rod so-and-so. So I was just saying something. I might have been making a joke. Bring it to my attention. I can explain myself. I may even be able to correct it and repent. Because, you know, and I'm just using me as an example because I'm talking, but I'm just saying, you know, prayerfully, I've never offended someone enough to leave. But if I have, please tell me so that I can be correct. I can be repentant of what I've done, or I can correct you to the proper instruction of what I was saying, what I was doing, what I meant. You know, that way there's no discrepancy between what I was trying to communicate and what was heard. Because sometimes, you know, my wife and I, we have to have discussions sometimes because I misinterpret what she said or what she did, or vice versa. If you don't have the conversation and you just run with what you thought, could be completely incorrect. Or it could be correct and then there needs to be an apology or some repentance. You know, and June is constantly coming to me for repentance for all the things that she does to me. So, no, I'm just kidding. It's the other way around, actually. I need to repent more. But I think, and I'm just joking, guys. I'm just making fun, light of it. But I think that there's something to say here in the way that Moshe responds to his father-in-law, you know, and respects who he is, you know. So I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. I hope that makes sense because, you know, we're a family, you know, and, you know, it's okay to leave and do other things, but it's also good and the proper thing to do to communicate those things so the people can know, so the people can pray for you, you know, maybe even bless you monetarily to go out and do what you need to do, whatever the case may be. It's very important that we communicate and that we speak and that we trust and that we respect each other in this family. Praise Yah. Sister Diane and then Amy.
Shalom.
Shalom.
You're very right, Brother Rod. This is all about having the house in order. Number one, the house has to be in order, and also doing the right thing. But I see additionally that circumcision was part of the covenant. You know,
Absolutely.
as we see in Genesis 17, in order to be part of Israel, the sons had to be circumcised on the 8th day as part of the covenant that Yahuwah himself established. And he says, let's see, 17 and Genesis 17, he says that if they're not circumcised, then they will actually be cut off. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, here it is. 17, Genesis 17 and 12. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. That's not exactly the one. Oh yeah, 14. And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. So it's more than just of course it is doing the right thing, you know, speaking in our terms, but it was the law, you know, it was the covenant. And this thing absolutely had to have been done. And actually Zipporah, she might be a good, she was been an obedient wife. As much as she hated to do this thing, as you mentioned earlier, Brother Ross, she knew that she had to do this thing because Moses was getting ready to go and perform his duty for Yahuah, you know, and this thing just had to be done, and that's all there was to it. She didn't like it, but it was part of the law. So she really did honor Genesis, and she honored the covenant and the law of circumcision through her husband as being the wife of him, because the boy was born in his household. So this was legally something that just had to be done. So, and in that sense, she made the step forward to keep the house in order. Moses may have just gone along with her. He knew that his son should have been circumcised, and so that's my take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the covenant. And I started to touch on it. Actually, I had all of that. I had it in my notes. I'll show you. You know what I mean? I had Genesis, you can see it, Genesis 17, 9 through 14, Exodus 14, 48, right? So
yes,
when Nate brought it up, it threw me off of going back and connecting the covenant to what was happening. But you're absolutely right. Thanks for coming back to that, because Nate threw me off track again. So just joking. But yeah, it's very important that we understand that too. You know, that this was a covenant, like Brian said earlier. This was something that was established prior to the giving of the stones, right? This was established covenant. This was what Moshe was supposed to do upon finding out that he was an Israelite to his sons, clearly understood by his wife and his sons and his family and all those in his care. So absolutely, very good point, sis. I appreciate you.
And I guess the other thing I wanted to say was for her, the wife. I don't know if the sisters have covered her, you know, in our studies. I've missed a couple, but she was being obedient, you know, and I see a case here to whereas even when the husband may be reluctant, because Moses was reluctant a couple of times, as we have seen. Even when sometimes where the husband may fall short, the wife can pick up, you know, she can pick up the you know, the staff, I guess is a good way to, or in this case, pick up the covenant, you know, and remind him as to what really needs to be done. So this is a case where both of them are working together in a sense, in unison. Praise y'all.
Yeah, if in the case of people that follow Torah, people that follow Yahuah, if the husband's given a directive that's outside of what's the instructions, that wife should not follow that. You know, the wife should not follow that. So that's a very important point to what was going on there. I think it was a little more going on than just her being obedient, though. But She definitely knew that's what was necessary to remove the wrath of Yah, was to what? Repent and turn back to what? Torah, right? That's what we do. We find out we're off track. How do you get back on track? We find it in Torah. Praise Yah. Good point, sister. Always good points. Sister Amy, then Sister Malak.
Yeah, I was going to say Sister Malak could have went first because I don't think I've heard her speak, so I was quite interested. But I just wanted to say, yeah, I came when you said before, you know, we're a family, and you know that's why I consulted. I think I mentioned to you guys I was going down south, and I did let everybody know because I was like, I need prayer because I knew I was going into like this war zone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to be good. So yeah, I would encourage that as well. But you make me laugh, Brother Rod, when you say Sister June. It's always here.
Yeah, no, that was a joke.
No,
Yeah.
I know you're messing, but it's just nice sometimes to have that family joke as well. But I just wanted to mention, you know, not always a real family to me, you know, doesn't just run and cut the other way when you have a fallout or a mishap, because a real family is someone who you'd have the fallout, you'd have the disagreement, you both have your moments of time away to cool off or whatever if it's needed. But you'd always come back because that's what family is. Family never turns its back, it never gives up, and love never fails. You see, so love shall always prevail if we've got the love of the Father in us. And to me, that's a true circumcised heart. You know, because to me, pride is having dead skin on the end on your heart. You know, which obviously I know that is for you guys as well. But so that's for me a true circumcision, because obviously women are not circumcised.
Yeah, and you know, to bring that back full circle, you know, it's very important to understand that yes, that was part of the covenant. Yes, that is required in the Torah. But Romans also points out the meaning behind it, you know, and the meaning behind it. No man shall be justified by the deeds of the Torah. You know, we don't get circumcised to gain salvation.
Exactly.
We get circumcised as a result of the act of first believing. We first believe faith, then we follow the instructions of those that have the faith. In other words, our actions become a habitual way of living based on the Torah that we believe in. So belief first, and then action. So those things have to be.
Yeah, like belief without works. Right. It's the same kind of concept. Absolutely. And obviously for me, I see Messiah was the ultimate circumcision on the tree. His whole self became dead skin, dead body on a tree. And that was his whole self cut off. You know, that's what he's explaining, is showing to us that we ourselves have to be as him, allowing ourselves to be cut off to allow other people to become first. Because then if everybody wants, you know, if everyone chooses to be last and humble, then that makes everybody first, right? You know, because if I put you first and you put me first and I put you first and you put me first, then we're all going to be in a rightful position called humility, willing and ready to serve at all times, even in the hour of testing. You know, when we're in an argument, when we're in a fight, it's like, hold on a minute, let's go back, humble and hug, reunite. And that to me is what the Father seeks when his brethren, in fact, I've experienced the barakah, and I'm sure you have, I'm sure loads of people have, when you actually do unite with a sister or brother and you say, you know what, sorry, like, who cares, you know, come here, give us a hug, let's just, I love you, you know, what does it matter about me or you? And obviously if there's something detrimental there, fair enough, you know, it's got to be, but a true, what I've recognized is if our true hearts are there and true humbly, what does pride matter when?
You bring out a great point though. You know, it says, cursed is every man or any man or every man that hangs from a tree, and how Yahusha had to be cut off that way in order so that we wouldn't be, you know. So Great point.
Yeah, but
sis.
if we don't bring our brother or sister back to the throne of the Father, which is our heart, where we say He resides, how can we look at Him and go, all right, Abba, it's like, go away from me, go and get your brother, go and get your sister, whether they've hurt you or you've hurt me. I mean, you're a father, and it's nothing worse when your children fight, right? Or if they ever did. I mean, I know when we were little, there's nothing worse than having a house full of kids trying to destroy each other. I know when I was little, and it was just now as an adult, I see how painful that is, like, because then you're getting told to take sides, and it's like, the father's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take sides with you. You go and deal with that. You go and deal with the stuff, and then come back, or don't bother coming home at all. It's like, because you're not coming.
All right, so we're getting close, though. We're getting close to the end. So let me. Got three more hands up. But good, Sister Amy. Very good. Very good, very good. It was a little lengthy, but we have 2 more questions. I'm gonna have to stop the recording, and then we're gonna have to answer the other questions. So I apologize for that. But this concludes our Exodus chapter 4 study for today. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom, Akuti, and Brohim. Thank you so much for viewing this video. We hope it was helpful to your walk in the truth. Remember to always search the scriptures on your own, to study Abba's word and show yourself approved, according to 2 Timothy 2:15. We invite you to study with us. To join us in a live study, just go to our website at assemblyofyahuah.com and click the Join Us tab. We have something available Wednesday through Saturday of every week. If you've been Baruch or blessed by this video today or any other study, we encourage you to go to the Giving tab on our website. Our elders all have their own ways of income, so none of the giving or proceeds go to them. Instead, it goes to biblical assembly needs. We also encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any new videos. We sincerely pray that Abba continues to direct your path as you acknowledge Him in all your ways. Much avaha, and again, shalom.